I love you, man. I was really excited about this. I was until just a couple minutes ago. Yeah, somebody came up to me and said, "Is Bill Nye your real name?" And I said, it's William Nye. I'm sure it's really good, but I can't hear it. I said, well, my name's William Nye. And he said, well, why did you change it?
I think I heard that.
No, I kid. So, greetings, bulls. Yes, the ferocious Southern Florida bulls. So this picture, you guys, if those of you unfamiliar, is the picture of the Earth. Now you laugh. Ha ha ha. But if you showed my grandfather, if you showed my father when he was your age, this picture, he wouldn't have thought it was real. First of all, there's supposed to be the moon in the foreground. Yeah, sure. And then he would have thought there were too many clouds. Because people perceived the world to looking like a globe, a classroom globe. But this picture changed the world. This is when humankind, if you will, discovered the Earth. This is when we realized, I think, in a way that people hadn't really grasped before, that the Earth is a planet like other planets, and it has enormous weather patterns, and it's fantastically round. It is rounder than a ball bearing, and you can't even see the atmosphere in this picture. The atmosphere is so thin, it's like it's not even there. It's like somebody has white rocks on the surface or something. So, I mention this because Earth Day is coming up in just a few days. Earth Day! And when I was young, I rode my bicycle to the very first Earth Day. I grew up in the city of Washington, D.C. Rode my bicycle to the Washington Monument, locked my bike to a flagpole, which they don't let you do anymore. No, Washington was a small town back then, and everybody was getting people fired up about Earth Day. Woo! And that's what I want you guys to do, is to get fired up. Woo! And I want you to, dare I say it, change the world. So our story begins with this guy. This is my father. Actually, it's a picture of my father. He wasn't that big. But just for those you don't get out, I know you're in Florida. He's got a rock hammer. Just so you're clear, those are rocks. And, my father was quite the rock hound. He's quite the amateur geologist. He spent a lot of time with rocks. Are there any geologists here? Geology? Woo! Right on.
Miners.
And rocks of any size. These geologists are fired up. But you'll recognize them. You'll see them. They walk around like this. Just really excited, hoping to find. Oh, look, it's another one. Go to the dorm, the apartment, or whatever. There's just rocks. No, this one's different, man. Sure it is. So, my father was not a scientist full time. He had at least one really good idea, I have to say, and that was to marry this woman. It's kind of hot, you gotta say. And for those of you detectives out there, you may infer he went to Johns Hopkins University. And you know, they haven't changed it at all. If you go to the bookstore, the font is the same. No, really, it's kind of cool. Anyway, her father would not let them get married until she was graduated from college. Right on. And this is in the year 1941. So my dad was graduated. He was under pressure to go to law school. He didn't really want to go to law school. because he heard bad things about it, I guess. So he wanted to have money for a nest egg, as the saying goes. So he took a job on Wake Island. I don't know if you've ever heard of Wake Island. You go to Hawaii and then you go almost that far, about a little farther than that again, in west, in the Pacific Ocean, and you're on this middle of nowhere coral reef called Wake Island. And in this picture, there it is, there's no place to land a plane in 1941. So my dad and his colleagues were building a airstrip. And my father was the college kid, so he was the quartermaster. He kept track of the tools, and by at least one family myth, he was responsible for refueling these planes. So this is before there was a runway. This is a seaplane. If you were a business person doing business in Asia, you would fly from San Francisco to Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Hawaii was not a state at that time. And then fly from Pearl to Wake. And then from Wake either to Midway, which is Midway, or to Shanghai. And so this was a tactically very important place, especially for Pan American Airlines. And it's not clear. I've talked to people who were there. But this may be my dad standing there working in his swimsuit all summer. And he said it was a great job. You know, there were no girls, which was not good, but there was they were making money, no place to spend it. And he said they would watch movies almost every night, and it would rain, and they would just sit there. Because the rain was so warm, we're in the tropics, cool, we're just hanging out, this is great. And that was all cool through the summer of 1941. That was great. And then he was making money, decided to stick around, and nobody really thought anything would go wrong. You know, nobody really thought that the Japanese Navy would attack this little island in the middle of nowhere. But for those of you unfamiliar, it was December 8th on Wake Island because of the international dateline, but it was December 7th in Pearl Harbor. The same morning, Wake Island was bombed. Pearl Harbor was bombed. Several targets in the Pacific were bombed by the Japanese Navy. And my grandmother kept this picture. And they kept this paper. I mean, the Evening Star used to be a newspaper in Washington, D.C. back when every town had two papers, one in the morning, one in the evening. And the Evening Star was in the morning. No, it was in the evening. It's very good value. As you can see, it's 3 cents. And, you know, the grown-ups will go on with you. Back when I was young, you know, the Christmas holidays were very important. Now it's just commercialized. It's just all about selling. Okay, below the fold on the same paper, 14 shopping days till Christmas.
Yeah.
The world has ended. The world as we know it has ended, and 14 shopping days till Christmas.
Yeah.
But it was for war bonds and it was for war bonds and so on. So my dad disappeared. No one knew what happened to these guys. Their radio was bombed. There was no way to get a ship out. They were surrounded. They fought back for 2 weeks. My dad and his colleagues fought back for 2 weeks. They sank a couple of small Japanese ships, and then eventually the Japanese showed up with like a flotilla. Anyway, these guys disappeared. They did not have, you know, internet access in 1941. There was no Twitter. There was no Facebook. Yeah, what did they do all day? Yeah. They did something, all right? Anyway, meanwhile, so it turned out that these guys fought back and they were captured and taken to, most of them were taken to China, to prisoner of war camp. By the way, if you get a chance to spend 4 years as a prisoner of war, I would not do it. I mean, it sounds like fun, you know. It sounds like it really kind of sucks. So, my mom, for those of you who are familiar with small things, my mom went to Goucher College back when Goucher College is now a liberal arts school outside of Baltimore, but back then it was in the city of Baltimore. It was what people called the sister school to Johns Hopkins. Johns Hopkins was all men, and Goucher was all women. So my mom went to Goucher, and the dean of students was a gal named Dorothy Stimson, who happened to be the first cousin of the Secretary of War, Henry Stimson.